this playoff format is working out just about how you would expect it to. Would you not concur, Mr. Davidi?
I think it's been great that it's certainly extended some races in cities where there wouldn't be races right now. There's certainly a good bit of drama. I'm sure that in Major League Baseball's ideal scenario, there are a few more teams that are a little tighter on the bottom of each of the wild card races, but I think it's really created a lot more interest in terms of what's going on in multiple markets, and ultimately that's part of the goal here.
Yep. Well, I think that is the goal, indeed. Blue Jays with a 1-game lead over Tampa right now, and yet it's a perilous lead because of the competition, because they have this weekend series. Last night was not the Blue Jays' best night, but specifically it wasn't Berrios's best night. He has been horrible on the road. Can you even possibly explain why that would be the case?
I don't have an explanation for it, and it's, to me, the more significant split, and I haven't done the numbers on this in a few weeks, but the more significant split for him was between teams that are above 500 and below 500, and how those games have happened to land. That may be some of what's behind that. To me, what's more interesting about him is that when he's not right this year, he blows up in a way that he didn't in the past, where you think about some of the outings where a starter, Gosman did this recently, where he gave up a bunch of runs, still got through 6 innings, managed to save the bullpen a little bit. With Berrios, that's not the case. The Thursday night game, that was the 8th time this year he's gone 4 innings or less in an outing. And for someone who's a workhorse and been one throughout his career, that's pretty bizarre. And so that's what really sticks out to me about Jose Berrios this year, is that he hasn't been able to make adjustments in games often enough to avoid these types of outings. And he'd been on a pretty good roll, so I don't think the Blue Jays are in any sort of panic about it or anything like that right now, but it's certainly not reassuring with the playoffs around the corner that he has this type of outing within the context of the type of season that he's had.
Which do you think is a bigger concern right now for him, velocity or location?
Location. The velocity was fine. He was even above his season average yesterday. So velo wasn't the issue. It's just there are times he leaves pitches over the dangerous parts of the plate. And really the thing that everybody was pointing to yesterday was just his inability to finish hitters off. He was getting ahead. He was attacking well. He was putting himself in position to get lots of outs. And then it'd be foul off, foul off, foul off, ball, foul off. And all of a sudden his pitch count, he's at 74 pitches through 2 innings and he's been grinded. And instead of an out being recorded, it ends up with a ball in play. So that is the issue. And his velocity for the most part has been fine this season. There was that one game in Anaheim where he had a weird dip, and that was just a dead arm period, which happens. But by and large, that hasn't been the problem. It's been being able to locate with his fastball and then being able to effectively leverage his curveball off that pitch.
Well, so how do you we're sitting here and this team is going to the postseason. We don't know whether they're going to be at home or on the road, obviously, but barring the ridiculously unforeseen, they're going to make the postseason. How do you rank your starting pitchers? I mean, they have 4 guys and you got to figure out how to go. And at the beginning of the year, you just said Berrios would be absolutely one of the top 3, absolutely would start a game in the first round, even if it went 3. Now, are you that sure?
Yeah, it's a super intriguing question. I'd put it this way. There's still about 2 weeks left of inputs to help decide that. To a certain degree, matchups will play a role in that as well. If there's a team that a starter has been particularly effective against that he happens to be facing, then you're going to factor that in. You're going to use all the information available to you. But the fact that it's a conversation is both a comment on Barrios' season to this point and how well Stripling has performed. That Stripling may be the guy you'd want in a potential game 3 or game 2, depending how you structure the series. It's not an automatic anymore. So I right now, I don't know that there's a direct answer to that, Bob. And I really do believe that what happens over the next 2 weeks will help determine that, and who the matchup ends up being will help determine that.
Can you explain that when you think about matchups?
Well, so Ross Stripling, for instance, has pitched very well against the Tampa Bay Rays this year. And is that something that you're going to factor in, that his pitch repertoire and the way that he's pitching may be a little bit more effective against that lineup, or at least for this season with this group, maybe more effective against that lineup than Jose Barrios? That could be part of it. Another consideration is that Stripling is pushing towards career highs in innings logged and workload. So he's going to be in some uncharted territory. And what does that mean for him physically when it comes to the playoffs? There are just going to be a lot of factors. The front offices these days, with the amount of information that they work with, it's just so vastly different from what we have publicly available in terms of where is a pitcher from a physical perspective, the different checkpoints, a lot of the real biometric data that we have no clue about, essentially. All those things will go into it, plus how do pitch movements play against swing planes and all those types of things. So it's going to be a layered decision. I'm sure their analysts are poring over stuff right now, if they haven't done that already, and trying to optimize a bunch of different plans to execute when the time comes.